Good evening, everyone in the Rubens room. Smashing Dialogues starts with a very simple but a very powerful idea that meaningful conversations deserve space. So at a time where opinions circulate faster and louder and more superficially than ever, we would like to take a moment to slow down. And we're not going to do that in a traditional lecture or in a promotional talk, but we're going to have conversations and encounters with artists, thinkers, entrepreneurs, scientists alike, and we're going to question things and have a conversation with each other. And it's no coincidence that Smashing Dialogues kicks off with Sir Antony Gormley and Carolyn Christov-Bakargiev, because their work and thinking touches exactly on what the series stands for, the relationship between humanity, space, society, and imagination. Their exposition right now is called Geestgrond. And so my first question to you would be, what is Geestgrond, the Dutch word? What is it in English?
There is no translation. I think it's such a wonderful word. Oh, hello, everybody. This is extraordinary. You know, we've been preparing for an hour for this wonderful opportunity to think and be together. The truth is that it's the most wonderful word because it has this geological implication, but also in its real, almost in its onomatopoeic form. Geestgrond, I probably can't speak it properly, but that idea of, in a way, the spirit, the breath, and the ground. But anyway, we had to fight for that word to keep it because everybody said, well, particularly Carmen, the director, said, what kind of a word is that and why will people come? It was a very good question.
Oh, yes, but having been a museum director for 30 years, I understand perfectly well those thoughts, and I think that the challenge is that people will come. And it all started with, what is the name of the show? What do we call it? And Antony and I were ping-ponging. Root and Revelation sounded too religious and other things. And then we thought of Grond und Geest. So spirit and ground. Soil, earth. Because I think that Antony's work is of the utmost importance right now, today, in this time, in the world, because it recognizes and makes us think about how important the connection is between what we think is immaterial, the soul or the spirit or the mind, and what we think is embodied material, the earth. And he tells us over and over again that they are mutually in a co-poietic co-emergence. Therefore, Grond und Geest was very important, and someone, actually a Dutch poet, twisted it around and turned it into Geestgrond from Grond und Geest. And you like that thing, and I like that thing, and the poet might not even exist, who knows, but we invented this thing and argued for it, and it means a little hill in Holland that was formed in the Ice Age.
Can just the beginning of bringing these two words together generate thoughts that wouldn't otherwise have happened? And I would say that's my attitude to art and sculpture. So much of our time now is.
How long have you known each other?
About a year.
Oh, yeah. I thought you went way back.
No, we learned about each other through making this exhibition.
Oh, really?
Because, I'd heard about her. I'd obviously been to Documenta 13. I admired her work, but I didn't know this embodied person. So it was, it was an adventure.
We had crossed paths in strange places, because the art world is like, it's a weird world. So I would run into him in the north of Bangladesh, in a place, and then I would run into him in places, but that is not the same as knowing. And this knowing came a year ago.
And how did it go? How do you guys work together?
Well, I got a phone call.
Well, yes, but I mean, how do you work together? What's the dynamic?
Well, let's ask.
As far as I remember, I mean, it was some time ago, and I'm getting unreliable in terms of memory, but I mean, I think that, we had a conversation, then Carolyn came to the studio, and she sniffed around a bit and, looked under the table, and then carried on looking not just under the table, but at everything. And I just, right from the beginning, I felt I am in the hands of a intelligence that is open-minded, inquisitive, curious in the best possible way. And I was really happy right from the beginning to be her archaeological site. So she was the digger, and I was just the place that got dug.
Much more. This has been an incredible learning curve, incredible. But there are certain things. So I remember receiving the phone call from Carmen, and because I'm retired from museum direction, I can do things, and she asked me, and I said, well, what does Antony Gormley think about this? And she said, he likes the idea. And therefore, I said, if Antony Gormley and I get along, I'll go to London. If he wants to do it, then I will do it. So the first test was, will I be up to the level of his research and work, knowing so little? And it had to be experimental. We had lunch in your studio with your collaborators, and it became clear to me that I really wanted to learn, and I was learning. And then the accelerated, like concentrated orange juice, the conversations that occurred over 4 months. I would go to London, and basically, once you said it was like a little bit psychoanalytic or something. The stories that I heard were very moving and touching, and I truly believe that Antony's work is of the utmost importance. Well, it has been for a long time, but right now, in this moment, it is of the utmost importance.
Do you want to elaborate on that? Because you just touched on it.
Elaborate. Well, they're making robots all over the world to clean your dishes and to kill people. And here's a man who is reiterating for years and years and years that the importance of the human condition is connected with the importance of the materially embodied person. And there are no sensors and no computers in these cavities of these lead works that were so movingly casts of the body, not to produce a copy of Mr. Gormley, but to produce the place where a person was and to protect that with lead. It's like, it protects you from nuclear bombs. And so there are reasons why this is of the utmost urgency for young people today to re-engage with the body, but not in a simple way, performance is back, everybody's doing performance in art. Yes, that's also true. But this is a much more profound question that he is carrying for so many years. So it was very important. And then I think that you can speak more to why it's important. No, you can't do that.
Can you?
I don't know. I mean, for me, it's really, relatively simple. I think that in a time where art has, I think, increasingly become commodified and institutionalized, that reassertion that art is the way that life expresses itself. Art is the way that life, in a way, feels itself, reflects on itself. And it belongs in, with, and to the world. And I guess my work comes out of personal experience, but also, I think, a feeling of trying to reattach that fundamental belief that, in a sense, for our forgotten ancestors, art was a tool of survival. It is through art that we understood our animal nature and our relationship to those fellow beings on the surface of this planet. I think at this time, where we seem to be like at the brink of disappearing into virtuality, that need for art as a reflexive space where in some way we model human possibility in order to, in a sense, objectify perhaps what we are and what we might become, becomes terribly, terribly important. And furthermore, the kind of reassertion of first-hand physical experience, where so much of our time at the moment seems to be committed to reading through screens the world and its information.
Mm-hmm. Now, Carolyn, you've worked with a lot of female artists. You've discovered a bunch of female artists. You call yourself a feminist.
You mean women?
Yes.
Okay.
Women.
Okay. No, I just to understand, because, I never understand when young people are talking about gender because it's changed so much.
Women.
Okay, what I used to call women. Okay.
Yes, what I also still call women.
Okay.
You call yourself a feminist curator.
Yes.
Then what are you doing with this cisgender man?
Well, there is an Italian artist, Francesco Mattarese, who said, "Le contraddizioni sono ovunque." Contradictions are everywhere. And I have given birth to 3 children. So, that said, I enjoy the presence of what do you call them? Cisgender?
Oh, yes, a cisgender man.
Yeah,
yes.
It's fine with me, no problem. But that said, I would say that, oddly enough, maybe it's true and maybe it isn't. It's true that in the Documenta 13, there were more women than in any other Documenta, but I was profoundly irritated at a biennale that was about women artists. So I've never associated art really with a gender, although I think the mind of women was very adept to the intersectional layering of the 20th century. So I do find, and I have found, the work of many women artists, from Joan Jonas to Ethel Adnan to many artists, interesting, not so much because they were women or I wanted to give opportunities to women, but because I felt that the ability to be in a state of non-binary thinking, to be in a state of uncertainty, is very, very important to understanding knowledge and our lives, not as fixed, stable, inert objects. So in that sense, I could argue that Gormley is a feminist.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But I think, I take that as a compliment. I mean, I think the job of deconstructing the patriarchy is a job that we, my gender needs to do just as much as the help we get from feminists. So that idea, certainly when we turn that to the job that sculpture has done historically, the idea of the male military hero, that really is maybe the most commonly known, whether it's Michelangelo's David or Lord Nelson on his column in the middle of Trafalgar Square. And you know, I think my problem has been as an artist that actually people can make the quite understandable mistake that here is a guy who's trying to kind of continue that tradition, which I certainly am not. And my challenge was, how do you bring the body back in a way with truth? And the way that I found, which was really by luck, you could say, was by just saying, I'm going to approach the body not as something looked at from outside, but as something felt and experienced from the inside. So the realization was that I had to use my own existence to examine existence. You could say that is the foundation of Socratic skepticism. And it's a very useful thing to realize, that I can use my body as a first material. I don't have to manipulate something at arm's length. I'm already in a material that I am feeling from the inside. Can I use it as a subject? Yes, because body is a common human condition. I can use the particularity of my life, my body, my existence, to talk about the common experience of being in a body. And I can use that as a subject, as a really universal subject, being in a body, in space and in time. And, well, that all sounds very wrapped up, like a philosophical, but I think actually my life has just been about trying to find a way of doing that. So downstairs, you know, you have a work that's made out of bread, which is just saying, you know, let us look at that, in a way, transmission of things that are really common, that are with us every day, but that can maybe tell us something. So just to make this wall of bread and to eat out a mature body but in a fetal position, just relinks us to the way that art maybe can deal with existence. And this isn't an idealized body in the manner of Bernini or Michelangelo. This is just, in a way, the sign of a body, the absent sign of a body that is turning matter into mind. Or that's what we do. When we have breakfast, that's what we're doing. We're turning matter into mind.
Yes.
So, yeah, for me, my wish was to start with something that was true, start with not with the idea of the virtuosity of making, but just trying to confront reality, and to engage the imagination and the participatory, in a way, empathy of a viewer.
When you mentioned Michelangelo's David, they're trying to, I mean, he was trying to obtain or attain perfection, but I feel like perfection doesn't interest you at all.
Oh, I would disagree. May I interrupt?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Please.
No. So first, it depends on how you define perfection, of course, the words. But I think my experience of working with Antony is he absolutely strives to make everything, I don't know if we can say perfect, but it could be the word perfect.
Good enough, I think.
Well, yes.
Good enough is good enough.
You know, I sometimes think about this balance between matter and mind also in your childhood when you were at Ampleforth with the Benedictines. For God's sake, the Benedictines, you know, ora et labora, so you pray and you work. And Antony reads and makes. He is in the studio making, and he's always taking time for reading. He's one of the most well-read people I've ever met, actually. It's unbelievable.
That doesn't mean I can think.
No, but you try to strive to think. That's what I mean. I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, but I don't really. I mean, you're brilliant. You're a thinker. I'm not. I don't trust my thinking. I don't trust words. So I have to make. This is my default position.
Yeah, but you want things to be precise.
I trust things more. Yes, absolutely.
You do. This labora, it's unbelievable how much Antony wants to work on everything. You know, the smallest detail his studio.
Well, yes,
will...
so he is a perfectionist.
Yes.
But what he's trying to do is not sculpt the
Yeah,
most perfect
but let's
body.
go back to the question of you were mentioning Michelangelo. Antony is in a dialectical relationship with presence. So there is the position of his body, holding the breath or whatever. By the way, every single sculpture is different, you know. So it's different because he has many positions that he has taken that have been cast either physically or digitally. But then there is the withdrawal of the body, and there's the place where the body was. So this is the reverse of Michelangelo. It's like the reverse of Rubens too. This has to do with painting. So it has to do with a fundamental lie, to make space in the world through painting. And Rubens, a young curator here, indicated an article about the fact that he would say that there had to be this flesh on the body, you know, the blue and the red, but you had to get rid of the smell of the stone. That is the exact opposite of Antony Gormley, even though we're sitting in front of that.
Yeah,
blue
check it out.
Red. It's exactly the reverse. Saint Sebastian, by the way. So this question of sculpture being in the world, but at the same time not being the patriarchal thing that's there, but how can you be in the world and be subtracted from the world immediately? It's a question of humbleness. I shouldn't maybe use that word, because when we say a word, it's usually false in the moment when we say it, as Adorno indicated. But let's say that Simone Weil, whom I refer to a lot when I think of Antony, she really spoke about this relationship between gravity and grace. And this grace is when gravity is the pool, and the grace is, of course, not the pool, but it can only fill a place that you have removed yourself from. So this is an exercise in perfection, in my view.
Well, thank you. I have a great supporter here, but I think I want to just examine the distinctions between painting and sculpture. I think that painting, and Rubens is a wonderful, wonderful example, is about illusion, about giving to the world a convincing illusion, particularly of flesh. And when we see St. Sebastian there, what you were talking about, the underpainting of the blue that makes the pink and the white of the flesh somehow like tremble. And that feeling, the feeling of, in a way, the vulnerability of flesh, this, in a way, frightening like nakedness, is very strong here. But it's an illusion. So I'm very interested in this question of in a way, how do we remove the virtuosity of making an illusion? I mean, you could say that most of the history of Western art has been obsessed with this idea of how do we evoke, in a way, life itself? How do we make a still image full of the drama of everyday life, with all of its vicissitudes of emotion, etc.? And I guess my answer to that is that actually sculpture is a very special case. It is of its essence still and silent. It is a thing in the world rather than making the representation of a thing in the world. So it is a thing in itself. And this is really important because our relationship with sculpture has to be physical. You have to start by walking around it. And through that fact that this still silent object has invited you to move, hopefully your mind also begins to move, and maybe you begin to attend to how you are feeling in that moment of movement. And I guess for me, this is the biggest challenge, but also potential of sculpture, that it can become a probe. it's not just simply like putting something into the world. It actually questions the world that it is put into. And it also, in a way, involves you as a viewer in that questioning. And that's, in the end, what I think it can do best. It can be an instrument of reflexivity. And there's nothing else like it. I mean, I'm obviously biased, but I really think that sculpture, particularly in a time of mass image making, where we're all, we all have our phones and we're all sharing, in a way, these instantly created, images of the world, but they are instantly forgotten. And sculpture reinforces, we are beings, we are objects in a world of things embodied, and we have to return to the blessing of that, the extraordinary thing of being alive and having this instrument that isn't just a kind of machine for doing work, for having effective powers of transformation. The body is an unbelievable receptor, a vessel of infinite subtlety. Most of its perceptions are not translatable into the hermeneutics of language, and don't necessarily either lend themselves to image making. And I guess, for me, the joy, but also the responsibility of sculpture is to return people to their beings, their material beings, not as a kind of materialist position, but as this unbelievable gift, extraordinary fact of a precious human birth. Sorry, I was getting on my high horse there, but I just think, it's lovely to be here with you, and I hope we can exchange broader thoughts.
Rubens famously had a lot of people that worked for him. It was more the studio Rubens. You also, in a way, are studio Antony Gormley.
Yeah, I couldn't do it without an enormous amount of help.
I was wondering how, important the team is obviously very, but if they just execute, or how involved in the thinking process are they?
Absolutely central. I think when we finish the work, like when we'd finished the work downstairs, attend the first work you come into in the great white atopy, that magical place that
the brancher,
the rusty brancher. So when we'd finished that, everybody stops work. Doesn't matter whether it's Isabel who does the finance or Grace who does works out kind of everything to do with communications. Everybody stops work and we all go down and we look at it, and it's fantastic because I'm just one body, one set of perceptions. And there is an unwritten rule in the studio. If you can think of any way of doing what you've been asked to do better, your duty is to do it. Adam Humphreys and Ashley Hipkin and Ocean Mims, my three kind of main collaborators. Ashley's worked for me for almost 30 years, Adam for 25. Ocean for about the same time. And, we have a lot of fun, is the truth. We're constantly evolving kind of, I guess, ways of dealing with these very common materials. We're moving more now into stone. We've just experimented with cardboard, but there are. Anyway, it's.
Do you ever
it's good fun.
Do you ever miss the beginning? Well, when it was just you, and you had less aids, less tools
No, it was
at your
me and
disposal,
Vic,
and
my
you had
wife,
to
who isn't
figure it
here
out.
tonight, but she will be here on Friday, and I couldn't have done. I couldn't have done my work without, this friend, and then she became my wife. But she's a wonderful artist. She's an inspirational artist to me. But she's also my life partner and the person that I work with most closely. And for the first, probably for the first 10 years, she was the one that covered me in plaster and scrim and made the molds. And then first I worked with Barry Wiltshire, who was a plumber. And he'd been to, in the old days when all plumbing was lead pipe, the first test you had was you had 1 square foot of lead at code 5, which is 5 pounds per square foot in weight. And you had to turn that into a pipe by beating, just by beating with wooden mallets. And anyway, I met him and I said, look, could you come and help me, because I'm really trying to learn how to form lead. Anyway, it was wonderful. That was my first, in a way, help with this material that I'd found at art school and done. So Full Bowl, which is in the show, that was made entirely by me. And the early Lancianaire was made entirely by me. But when I had my first show with Salvatore Ala in New York, I really needed, in order to make enough work for a whole show, I needed some help. And then, one thing follows on another.
Where do you find the greatest pleasure as an artist? Is it the idea? Or is it when you're working with your hands, you're trying to figure it out, or when it's finished?
The greatest pleasure.
The whole story.
Everything.
I mean, it has to be the whole story. The making of a... I'm sorry, I haven't even... Where is it? I always have a little notebook, and I'm always but actually, this is a brand new notebook, so there's not much in it. But that's the beginning. That's the beginning. The beginning is like you have an idea, and you get it down, just a little sketchy thing, and then you're thinking, right? Well, I'll have a go and maybe make a model, or I'll talk to Ocean about it, and we'll think from the very beginning what the best way of tackling this is. And then, you should come to the studio, because there's all kinds of... It's more like a farm, or a factory,
or, there are many studios.
Or a playground, or... Anyway, there's things going on. There are a lot of things growing in different hands, in different materials, in different places. And I love all of it. I mean, I think I really think that it's a myth. The myth of the, in a way, singular genius working in their own time, in their own space. It's just not the way that life works. If my life has taught me anything, it's if you really have a desire to do something, the amazing thing is that people come out of the woodwork, or come and want to help. Mm-hmm. It's incredible. There's never been a stop of people who've wanted to come and join the studio. We have a nice time.
We're in Antwerp. Antwerp was the cultural capital of Europe in '93. You were involved at the time, Carolyn? The tagline at the time was, "Can art save the world?" Do you think that the answers would be different today than they were then?
What art can do, if you give it the chance, is give you a place to find yourself. And I think that, in the end, is the only job that art should do. This is not about ideology. It's not about kind of, trying to support some kind of system, belief system, or political system, or philosophical system. It's a place apart. It's in life, and yet it gives a place of reflexivity to life. And I would like to think that the best that art can do is give you a place of peace and relief where you can feel your own being and the value of that. And the world is what the world does, and it's not doing it very well at the moment. But the one thing that we can care about is just, being responsible for what we can be responsible for. Anyway, and I think art can help us with that.
Have you ever lost it during the process? And what I mean by that is, so you imagine something, and then you think it out, and you try to work on it, and having it.
Am I familiar with failure? Okay. Yeah. I'm good friend with failure. Yeah.
What then?
Well, no, but failure is really useful. I mean, recognizing that you had what felt like a really brilliant idea, but actually in the process of realizing it, you realize that just simply wasn't true. So, ideas are very cheap. I think that working them through a dialogue with materialization, with material, often is the testing ground for the viability of an idea.
Can people also just like it?
Oh.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah.
They can.
I think it's pretty.
I think taste is another one of those things like beauty that is dangerous because it's often affected by whatever we call it, fashion trends, now with social influences on social media, just liking something, can be, in fact, kind of submitting yourself or agreeing to be persuaded about.
But I mean, just enjoy the aesthetics of it.
Yeah.
Of course. But that is because we can be like children. It's very important to be like children. I always look in exhibitions if the children like it. I'm sure the children will love the Gormley show. Mm-hmm. I hope they don't start climbing on the loops of orbit field. But, or in Murmur, think they're going to hang a swing to swing in Murmur. Hope not. But I think that this show will be liked very much by the younger people, and they can bring their parents to experience it in a also light way, because that is the phenomenology of experience. It's not about taste, and social media. It's a fundamental human thing that you put your feet in the mud and you swim towards the sculpture of Gormley full of shells and barnacles attached to it, and you play. And that is that so-called inner child that is part of recognizing the phenomenology of experience.
For me, it might be interesting for you to know that actually for the three domains, the one by the river, the one on the parapet of this building, and the one outside next to Cristina Iglesias' wonderful pond, I went back to the old way, and that was quite a thing. I hadn't done one for about 20 years, but I decided I had to do it for these, to make these. And that was a really extraordinary thing, actually, going back to that process of being entirely encased. It is the most intimate form of architecture, and I suffered from claustrophobia quite severely as a child. And this was, in a way, learning to submit to this enclosure, absolute enclosure, was quite a process. And it was really quite a powerful thing for me to go back to that, to make those works. But anyway, I thought you might be interested in that.
I would like to thank you very much for this wonderful conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.